If you look at the worst intersections in the city of Vancouver, there were more than 100 crashes causing injury or death between 2018 and 2022. And Vancouver Party One City wants those intersections protected by red light cameras. Councillor Christine Boyle has announced a motion to address this, and Councillor Boyle is on the line right now. Hi there, good afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
So what exactly is in your motion?
So I am responding to the significant safety issue that we see and hear about all the time in Vancouver, which, as you mentioned, results in a significant number of injuries and deaths. The ICBC data shows that there's about 22 vehicle crashes per day in Vancouver that result in injuries significant enough that someone ends up in hospital for a minor or major injury. And last year, 18 people died in car crashes in Vancouver. The majority of those impacts are vulnerable road users. 50% of those serious injuries and fatalities involving a motor vehicle are borne by people walking or cycling. 45% of all pedestrian fatalities are senior citizens. So this motion to install more speed and red light cameras at our most dangerous intersections in Vancouver is really about making it safer for people to walk and roll to the places they need to get to in the city.
So which intersections are you targeting specifically?
It's a great question. So I had some volunteers who helped pull the ICBC data on what the most dangerous intersections across Vancouver are. Right now, there are 44 intersections in Vancouver that already have safety cameras. And we looked at proposing that we have speed enforcement cameras at the intersections where there have been 100 or more crashes resulting in an injury or a fatality in the last 4 years, as well as intersections where there have been 50 or more of such crashes if they're close to a school, wanting to make sure that our expectation of safety is even higher where families and kids are walking to school. There's 151 of those intersections that have had 100 or more crashes or 50 or more near a school. So that's about 100 new cameras that we would be installing at major intersections across the city. And I'm sure your listeners can each think of one. It's not a surprise. If you look at the map, they're busy, large intersections across the city along 12th and Broadway, along 41st, a number along Knight and along Boundary. So the proposal is really based on where the highest risk is and what the data shows us from that, where we can make a big improvement and make the city safer.
Okay, and is there evidence to prove that that is actually what happens at the intersections that have these safety cameras? I mean, do they actually work to change driver behavior?
Absolutely. There's been a whole range of studies. The provincial government has looked at their effectiveness. Numerous health experts, public health experts have been calling for an expansion of these programs because they're effective in reducing injuries and saving lives. We know that they work, and not just that they work, but that they are a really cost-effective intervention. Some of the studies that have been done show that the cost-benefit ratio exceeds 10 to 1. The benefits from installing these cameras in terms of increasing safety and reducing hospital visits and reducing fatalities are significant.
Right. So which drivers could be caught by these kinds of cameras? What kinds of infractions do they catch?
Yeah, it's a great question. I really think about it as just enforcing our existing laws. We have speed limits, and those speed limits are only effective if we're making sure that they're well communicated to people. And so a piece of this is making sure people know that there are speed cameras, and just that information tends to slow drivers down. And then also that we're enforcing those rules. And that too, of course, has an additional impact in slowing drivers down and making sure that our streets are safer. So it would impact drivers who are driving excessive speeds above the speed limit.
So, these are speed cameras? These are not running red light cameras? Is that...
Right now, across Vancouver, we have a combination of the two. And my understanding is that they are currently separate cameras because of the technology that was available when they were installed, but that there is now technology that can make a camera effective as both a speed and a red light camera. So that's some of the conversation to have with the province, who we would need as a partner in moving forward in implementing more speed cameras to make our streets safer.
Well, and when we're talking about the red light cameras, I mean, this is interesting. I'm sure you've given it some thought, because does it only affect people who are running straight through an obvious red light? I mean, in many intersections, you have the scenario where there are drivers in the other direction that are turning left. They can't safely turn left until the light turns yellow or even red, because there's so much traffic coming in the opposite direction. The road isn't yet clear. So is there a potential for the left-hand turners to be caught by these cameras?
I don't think so, but I certainly hear concerns from people, actually, particularly about the risk of right-hand turns on reds is another road safety issue that's been raised to me many times. Overall, the motion is really focused on where the data and evidence supports implementing the types of cameras in each intersection that can have the most impact of reducing risk. That's the focus, and the province has a lot of that data because they currently run the program, and that's what has informed where cameras exist now and would certainly inform where they get implemented in any expansion of the program.
You know, one of our story producers went out a few weeks ago with a Vancouver police officer in a visible uniform, and it was really interesting in her view to see how drivers reacted just to see an officer there. So what's the argument to putting cameras rather than more visible policing and traffic enforcement?
The benefit of having more automated speed enforcement cameras is that they are so cost effective that they're there all day, so it's much easier for us to implement. And I think you raise a really good point that just knowing that they're there is an important deterrent too, in the way that the city includes signage and makes that visible is an important piece of the deterrent as well. I hear regularly actually from parents and in conversations with parent advisory committees about their interest in more enforcement of speed limits around schools. And the reality is that we can't have a police car stationed at every one of those intersections. We can roll out a expanded program of speed cameras that do that work themselves, and then those police officers can focus on where they're most needed.
Okay, well, you're one councillor right now, and you've already said that ultimately it's the province that is responsible for installing and monitoring the cameras. So before you can even go to the province with this, you need the support of council. Are you confident you'll get that?
I'm hopeful. Certainly this council across the board was elected after a lot of conversation about the need to address public safety across Vancouver, and I hear that commitment from councillors across all parties. 22 crashes a day and 18 fatalities, 18 deaths last year is a pretty significant public safety issue, and what I'm proposing is an effective efficient, evidence-informed solution that makes those roads safer for everyone. Like lots of your listeners, I am a pedestrian some days, and I'm a cyclist some days, and I'm a driver some days. And in all of those modes of getting around the city, I want our streets to be safer for everyone. This is one piece of how we get there. It's an important piece, and I am certainly hopeful that my fellow councillors will support it. I see no reason why they shouldn't.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens in council. And before you go, I know you sort of laid out some general areas where you'd like to see these speed and red light cameras. Throw out an intersection for me. If you were in charge of this first one, what would be the first intersection you would target?
Sure. Main and 12th is a huge one. And in particular, I've heard a lot from the families at Nightingale Elementary School along 12th about the speeding problem that they have there. Main and 12th has a huge number of collisions, and there was a fatality just this past year right around there. So one example of the many places where we could see a lot of improvements in safety by installing these cameras.
Thank you very much, Councillor Boyle.
Thanks for having me on.
Christine Boyle is a city councillor in Vancouver. As you heard, she wants the city, and that will require cooperation from the province, to adopt a motion to bring more speed and red light safety cameras to Vancouver's most dangerous intersections. What do you think of that approach? Is this a motion you support? And is there a particular intersection where you would like to see more enforcement? Let us know on the coast at cbc.ca. On the coast at cbc.ca.